How are you doing, everybody? Welcome to Russell Heritage Golf. Today we're going to be talking about this one, right? The driver, and how to get the best results and things that basically need to happen. One of the things that we need to do when it comes to the driver is that we need to incorporate width, but we also need to make sure that we are controlling things like the club path as well in terms of its journey. And the start to the downswing is basically where it tends to plague most amateur golfers. So the problem that tends to happen is, instead of this constantly sort of on plane swing, we tend to get discrepancies where the shaft of the golf club would start coming down too vertically, then kind of causing this problem where we're having to kind of stand up at the bottom part of the swing to create width, rather than feeling like the first move in the downswing is creating the width. And a lot of this is going to be due to the functionality of the trail arm. Now, in the backswing position, you have choices, right? You have a choice in terms of how your arm basically is going to function. If you kind of imagine like holding a tennis racket, you would generally just, you wouldn't, as you're drawing the tennis racket back, you wouldn't necessarily overly, shall we say, rotate or supinate the trail arm, right? So you would keep the racket face almost pretty much pointing down to the ground. And then as you come in towards the hit, you would kind of drive the elbow and then, shall we say, release it through. So in the golf swing, you can have the same sort of approach. In the takeaway, that's really important. So in the first move, we don't want to start rotating the forearm because that will tend to get the club under plane. So by the time we take the club back in the early part of the swing, we want to reduce the amount of forearm rotation. But then as we swing up to the top, then it's completely acceptable to start allowing the forearm to rotate to help keep the club on plane and to get the shaft feeling like it's basically shallowing out a little bit. Now, if you choose not to do that, that's fine. That basically means that the shaft is going to be more, should we say, across the line or more vertical in the top of the backswing. Again, the reason why that is completely acceptable is because basically we can change it in the transition, and the transition, or if you like, the start to the downswing, is the important part. So due to the fact that you take the club back in this sort of manner, doesn't mean that it has to come down in the same direction. What would happen is, as we start to initiate the downswing, we've basically got to get the feeling that the right forearm is going back into an upward facing position as we move the elbow back towards the hip in the downswing. And both of these movements, you can see, have an effect where the shaft would start to go, shall we say, back to more on plane, or if you like, more shallowing. And what this motion does is this again reintroduces width. Now, if you can reintroduce width in the transition of the swing, that basically means that you can keep hitting through. If you bring the club down too vertically, then you have to stand up at the bottom part to add width. And like I said, the culprit of that would be that the forearm is not pointing up towards the sky and it's pointing more down towards the ground in the early part of the swing, which is why the shaft will point too vertical. So it's a really important thing that you get this sort of feeling. Like I said, whether you're somebody who likes the idea of reducing the rotation of the arm going back, and then you want to get it feeling like it moves more upward as you start to initiate the golf swing, that's fine. Or whether you're somebody who wants to take it back conventionally and then rotate it conventionally more up towards the top and then hold that feeling in the position, both are equally acceptable. But the big message out of this video is, if you're struggling with the driver and you know that you're somebody who comes whatever over the top, or the shaft angle is too steep, then I would start looking at the functionality of this arm. And a great feeling is, as soon as you start to initiate the downswing, you want to make sure that forearm is going back into an upward facing position. This will help create shallowing. Then you can rotate and release it through that hit. And that means, if you're right hand dominant and you want to feel like you're rolling the right hand, it's not the end of the world. We're not going to go too much down the rabbit hole of the hit, but what we are talking about is the importance of the forearm position in that transitional move. Hopefully you enjoy the video. Always appreciate one of those. Remember, it's absolutely free to press that subscribe button. If you're going to do so, press the little bell icon, because that means you receive notifications every time a new video comes out. Work on it if you need to. I'll catch up with you guys again soon.